Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to episode 9. Today we're going to make this fountain. Stick around. So the first thing that I did was use my compass to measure out a 2-inch circle. This would be the base of the fountain. And then I just used a straight edge to cut straight lines around it to get the circle shape. My foam cutter doesn't get hot enough to cut the paper as well as the foam. So I just sanded the edges, got rid of all the points. It works well enough for my needs. And I marked a line with a pencil and rolled it across the surface of the straight foam core to get the length for the corners, or for the side, but it was inaccurate. I failed to take into account the thickness of the foam board, and it ended up coming up short, as you'll see here. Peeled off the top layer of paper and drew in the stonework. I just tried to make the pattern as random as I could, but also to be a little bit more realistic. I went with some cobbling effect on the bottom rows and a bricking effect on the top, so I mixed and matched a little here, and the effect was pleasing. I liked it, so I didn't feel the need to remake it. I took the paper off of both sides of the foam and drew the pattern on both sides. Since we're going to be viewing both sides of the foam, it seemed kind of stupid to leave the pattern off of the inside and have it only on the outside. But I could have just as easily done that. I could have been a little bit lazy on this, but I really wanted the detail, so I did it on both sides. This did make the foam a little more fragile, but it also made it easier to bend around the base. It's the same technique that I used in the well video. Now the pattern on the back is not exactly the same as the front, just the lines that continue from each side to give the illusion of continuity. Peeled off one side of the paper from the base and drew in a cobblestone effect. And lastly, just a few details on the stonework. Just a little bit of tacky glue around the outside and some pins to hold the lip or the wall as I put it around the fountain. I just put a pin every inch or so to hold it in place. Now, see that you can see there wasn't enough to go around. Now I could have recut it, I could have redrawn all that, but that took a while to do, so I didn't want to do that. What I ended up doing is stretching it out and pulling the pieces apart. You can see here I'm stretching out the the foam as I pulled it. I undid the pins and pulled it further towards the gap and shortened the gap. And then I just took a small piece of foam and plugged the gap. Filled it with glue, pinned it, waited for it to dry, and then I went over it, just put some spackling on my finger and filled in the gaps before drawing in the brick pattern again with the pen. And it worked okay. It didn't perfectly heal the circle, and it would have been better had the circle been complete, but it is what it is. Here I just have a couple of pieces from a Hearst Arts mold that I had laying around. Something I made a long time ago that I never bothered to use. I always intended for it to be part of a fountain, but I never got around to using it until now. You don't need to use this. You could use wood bits from Michael's or anything, beads, anything like that. Dowels would be perfect for this. I black bombed it using the black paint and Mod Podge, the whole thing, and then I'm just going over it here with a watered down pewter gray, and then a dry brushing with the granite gray. And then I'll apply a black wash to the whole piece, and I will dry brush the granite gray again over the top of the black wash. I had this little guy laying around. I had purchased a set of miniatures from the WizKids line for Dungeons and Dragons, and they're the little set of familiars, and I had this little pseudo dragon that I wasn't going to use for anything, so I decided to make him the figurehead on the fountain. Ultimately, he'd be the piece where the water spouts out, like the cherub or whatever would be on top of the fountain. So I based him in the pewter gray, dry brushed him with granite gray, and then came back and hit it with a black wash. I'm just going to pick out some bricks at random and some stones and hit them with different colors of brown to give them a more realistic look. Next we're going to start on our water effects. I wanted to have water coming out of the mouth of the dragon, so I used some fishing line that I had laying around. Back when I used to fish, which I don't do anymore. I just cut some lengths of it, and since it had a natural curve, I tried to straighten them, or not straighten them, but make them all face the same way. And then I just glued them together with a dab of super glue. It's harder than it sounds. That super glue really didn't want to stick very well. It took a few minutes for it to set up. And then I glued it to the underside of the chin of the drake. I should have drilled a small hole in his mouth area and placed it inside. It would have been a little more realistic, but you can't really even tell at the scale this thing is at, so use your own discretion on that one. I just didn't feel like doing that. And I'm just going to secure it to the base of the pool with a small dab of hot glue, which you won't even notice after the water effects go in. Okay, so I mixed up a batch of water effects just using some 2-part epoxy. I prefer the Gorilla brand. It takes the paint really well and it dries super clear. I just used a dab of blue paint on the end of a coffee stirrer and used that to mix up the epoxy, and that works really well. But I should have stopped here. I should have used this and this alone. What I ended up doing is I put this in the bottom, and once it dried I decided it wasn't deep enough, so I put in another mix, and that ended up covering everything in the bottom, so you can't see the brickwork on the underside. Here's batch number 2. I could have gotten away with just having another layer of clear on top, I think, but it is what it is, and it came out good enough. And the last thing I did was just use some gloss Mod Podge as ripple effects, and this worked well enough. The ripple effects ended up being too fine. I would have preferred for them to be more coarse. I've since found another Mod Podge product that I really like. It's called Dimensional Magic, and I'll be using it in an upcoming video here very soon. There you have it, the finished product. Very happy with how this piece turned out. The build time was very minimal. Just the longest portion was waiting for the glue to dry. It's the perfect centerpiece for any town setting, or even in the middle of a dungeon, you could have this fountain. Thanks for watching. If you're not already a subscriber, hit the button below. Please also hit the like button and leave a comment. I'd like to hear from you. I've also recently created a Amazon affiliate link for you to click on when you do your shopping. No extra effort on your part, and I get a small commission based on the sale. I also made a merchandise store over on Teespring for you to check out. I got t-shirts, mugs, yoga pants for some reason, and you can proudly display my logo as you walk around anywhere, and no one will know what you're doing. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters, all 2 of you. Thank you very much for being there and being the first to join the crew. You get to be my first minions as we move forward with the channel and try to create progressively more and more content. I'd like to do some more challenging pieces, and I'd like to work towards making the channel a little better. So everything that goes that I get from that site goes right back into the channel in one form or another. I get to buy cool things like this. Beads. Wood beads. Crystals. Metal beads. Measuring spoons. Velcro. You get the idea. I get to buy cool shit, and it all gets to be used to make more stuff for you, for your viewing pleasure. So thank you. I just wanted to say that. Yeah, I hope you all have a safe and happy New Year, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.